My name is Alara. On the night I thought love would finally carry me forward, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "My family loves him. They'll never accept you. I can't choose you over them." The words didn't just hurt. They broke something inside me that I never thought could break. It wasn't because she didn't love me. It was because her love was not strong enough to stand against the weight of her family's approval. I stood there frozen, searching her face for any sign that she didn't mean it. But her eyes were steady, almost cold, as though the decision had already been made long before this night. My chest felt heavy, as if all the years of fighting to be seen, all the quiet battles we had survived together, meant nothing now. She wasn't walking away because I failed her. She was walking away because choosing me meant losing them, and she wasn't brave enough to take that loss. Her family adored him, the polished, wealthy man with perfect charm and a smile that won over everyone in the room. He was safe. He was the right choice. Every family dinner I sat through felt like a test I could never pass, while he passed without trying. They laughed louder at his jokes, praised him for things no one even noticed when I did them. They didn't hide their preference, they flaunted it. And now here it was, spoken out loud by the woman I thought would fight for me. I can't choose you. I wanted to scream, to ask how love could be so cheap, so weak that it could be traded for comfort and approval. Instead, I stood silent, watching as she stepped back, not toward me, but toward them. Her mother opened her arms. Her brother whispered something I couldn't hear, and then came the words I'll never forget, carried on a smirk meant to soothe her guilt. She'll understand. She always does. In that moment, I understood. Everything. Love hadn't failed. She had. And if she thought I would simply understand again, as I had 1,000 times before, she was about to learn how wrong she was. The truth is, this wasn't the first time I felt pushed aside. My whole relationship with her had been a quiet battle, a war I never wanted to fight but was dragged into because of her family. From the very beginning, they made it clear that they already had a picture of the man they wanted for her. He was wealthy, smooth, always dressed perfectly, and he came from a family they respected. To them, he was not just a good option, he was the only option. Every holiday felt like walking into a courtroom where I was always on trial. At dinners, her father would ask him questions about business and money, while I sat silent, my words brushed away. Her mother would beam at his answers, then turn to me with faint disapproval, as though wondering what her daughter saw in me. Even when I tried to bring something meaningful to the table, a story, an opinion, a success of my own, it was met with silence, quickly overshadowed by his polished charm. I can't count the number of times I was belittled in small ways. He's so much more stable. Look how well he fits in. You'll understand, Alara. You're just different. That word, different, cut sharper than any insult. It wasn't a compliment. It was their way of saying, didn't belong, and maybe never would. I thought love would be enough to protect us. She used to hold my hand under the table when their questions got cruel, whispering promises that we were stronger than their opinions. And for a while, I believed it. I wanted to believe it so badly. But over time, I realized love isn't enough when every single day you're forced to fight just to be seen. Still, I stayed. I stayed because when it was just the two of us, away from their judgment, I felt wanted. I felt chosen. I told myself that was worth it. But the cracks kept spreading. Every gathering, every pointed comparison, every time they laughed louder. At him, I could feel myself fading, and then came the night I overheard her brother talking on the phone, his voice smug and certain. It's only a matter of time before she picks him. Everyone knows it. Those words didn't just pierce me, they echoed with the weight of truth. Everyone knew it. Everyone but me. The night it all broke open was supposed to be simple. A family dinner, the kind I had endured too many times before. The table was set with crystal glasses, silverware polished until it gleamed, and the air carried that sharp mix of roasted meat and tension I had grown used to. I sat beside her, trying to steady myself, reminding my heart that her hand in mine meant we were united. But then the questions began, sharper this time, pointed like knives. Her father leaned forward, eyes locked on his daughter. You know we'll never accept her, don't you? Think of your future. Think of us. Her mother's voice followed, softer but heavier with guilt. Sweetheart, you need stability. You need someone who fits into this family. We all love him, and isn't family approval more important than making a scene? Every sentence was a chain, wrapping around her, pulling her down. I felt her hand slip from mine, fingers twitching nervously in her lap. That silence, that hesitation, was louder than any rejection could have been. It was the sound of someone already letting go. I looked at her, searching for one word, one defense, anything to prove she was willing to fight for me. But she stayed quiet. Her eyes darted to her brother, who nodded at her as if sealing the decision for her. The whispers began around me, quiet but cruel, carrying across the table like a poisoned wind. She's just temporary. Everyone knows she'll pick him eventually. It's only a phase. The blood rushed in my ears, my face burning, and still she said nothing. The girl who once swore she would never let me feel small was now making me the smallest I had ever been. Finally, I couldn't bear the silence anymore. Say something, I whispered, my voice cracking with a mix of hope and fury. Tell them you love me. Tell them I matter. She looked at me, and for one painful second, I saw the woman who once promised me forever. But then she dropped. Her gaze and the words fell like a hammer. I can't choose you over them. The room stilled, as if the air itself had been stolen from it. And in that moment, I realized what I had never wanted to admit. Her love had always been conditional. It had never been mine alone. It had always belonged to them first. I pulled her away from the dining room, my heart pounding so loud it felt like the walls could hear it. The laughter of her family carried behind us, cruel and certain, as if my pain was nothing more than background music to their victory. When we reached the hallway, I turned to her, my voice raw. Was I ever enough for you? I asked, the words tasting like blood in my mouth. Or was I always just a placeholder until he came back? Her face tightened, but instead of honesty, she gave me the same weak shield I'd heard too many times before. You don't understand. It's complicated. Complicated. I almost laughed, but the sound came out broken. No, it's not complicated. It's simple. They want him. They don't want me. And you just proved you want their approval more than you want me. She looked away, tears welling in her eyes, but her silence was answer enough. Then her sister appeared, her voice slicing through the air like a blade. She's right to pick him, she said coldly, not even looking at me. You were just a phase. Everyone knew it. The words landed harder than I thought possible. A phase. 2 years of love, of late-night talks, of shared dreams, reduced to a temporary distraction, a season to be forgotten. My chest burned, not just with pain, but with rage. I stared at both of them, the woman I had loved and the family who had never hidden their disdain for me. For a moment, I felt myself teeter on the edge of begging, of pleading for them to see my worth. But then something shifted inside me. No, I would not crawl. I would not make myself smaller. Not this time. I straightened my shoulders, my voice calm but edged with fire. You think you've discarded me, I said, each word measured, deliberate. But what you don't know is, I don't vanish. I rise. I left them standing there in silence, their victory hollow, their laughter echoing behind me. They thought the story had ended with my humiliation. What they didn't realize was that it had only just begun. Revenge didn't come with fire or screaming. It came with silence, with calm, with a steady hand that knew exactly where to strike. I didn't storm their house or beg her to change her mind. Instead, I began to collect. Every message we ever sent, every photograph of us laughing, every voicemail where she told me I was her forever. I saved them all. Not to destroy her, but to make sure the truth could never be erased, no matter how hard she tried to rewrite. I started slowly, carefully. A conversation here, a quiet coffee there. Friends who had always wondered why I looked small around her family began to hear pieces of the truth. Cousins who whispered about how perfect her life was now learned about the nights she held my hand, telling me she couldn't live without me. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't scream. I just told the truth. And the truth is heavy enough to crack the strongest lies. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. The man her family adored, their golden choice, their polished dream, began to hear the rumours. That his perfect bride-to-be had once promised forever to someone else. That she hadn't just dated me, she had been devoted to me. That she had broken me to earn her family's applause. People began to whisper words the family couldn't silence: hypocrisy, betrayal, image. The same relatives who once praised them for their standards now raised their eyebrows, wondering how a family so proud could cheer for a woman who threw away real love for convenience. I stayed quiet, steady, letting the whispers do what years of my begging could not. For the first time, they were on the defensive, scrambling to protect the picture they'd painted. But the paint was peeling, and everyone could see it. One night, as I sat scrolling through my phone, another message came in, another friend asking if it was true, another screenshot of the family's perfect mask cracking. And then my phone lit up with her name. I answered, letting the silence stretch before she spoke. Her voice was panicked, sharp with fear I had never heard before. "Ilara, what's happening? Why are people asking me questions? What did you do?" And in that moment, I smiled. The game had finally shifted. The cracks in her perfect image turned into fractures that no one could ignore. For years she had been the shining star, the daughter who could do no wrong, the one her family paraded in front of relatives and friends. And now, that polished picture was splintering in front of the very audience that once worshipped it. At tea. Another family dinner. The whispers started before the food was even served. I could feel the stares, hear the sharp little questions being traded between cousins and uncles. Is it true she was with Ilara for years? She promised forever, and then walked away just because they told her to. The room buzzed with curiosity, not admiration. For once I wasn't the one under their judgment. She was. I walked in calm, collected, every step measured. I didn't raise my voice, didn't beg for justice. I just sat at the table and waited. It didn't take long before someone finally turned to me, voice gentle but firm. "Ilara, is it true?" I looked around, meeting every eye that was waiting for an answer. My voice was steady, almost soft. She didn't choose love. She chose convenience. And now the world sees it. The words landed like stones dropped into still water. A silence stretched, then the shift began. Relatives who once ignored me now frowned at her. Friends who once praised her perfection turned their eyes away. Respect slipped from her fingers like sand, and she couldn't grasp it back. She exploded then, her voice cracking in fury. "She's lying. She's jealous because I left her. She's bitter, she's pathetic." Her hands shook, her face red, and the more she ranted, the worse it looked. Every word was proof of what I had said. She hadn't chosen love. She had chosen to protect herself, and now she was unravelling for everyone to see. I stayed quiet, my calm presence louder than her shouting. And when she finally stormed from the table, slamming the door behind her, I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The damage was already done. Later that night, my phone buzzed with an email that made me pause. A company in another city, one I had interviewed with months before, reached out. They had seen how I carried myself through the betrayal. Someone there admired my strength, my composure, and they wanted me on their team. I stared at the message, heart pounding. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a door leading. Away from the ashes of what they had done to me, and into a future I could build without them. And I knew then, the story wasn't ending in humiliation. It was just beginning in power. When the job offer came, I didn't hesitate. For too long I had lived in a place where every glance, every dinner, every whisper reminded me that I was not enough for them. But I had always been enough for myself. I just needed to remember it. So I made the choice. I was leaving town. Not quietly, not hidden, but openly. I announced it at a small gathering where her family sat stiff and pale. My voice was steady, almost gentle. I'm moving to the city. I've accepted a new position, and I'll be building my life on my own terms, away from here. The words sliced through them like glass. Panic rippled across their faces, though they tried to mask it with forced smiles. Because they knew. Without me around, they couldn't control the story anymore. They couldn't keep twisting the narrative that I was a bitter ex clinging to their daughter. My leaving meant they would have to face their own lies without a scapegoat. And then the unthinkable happened. The man they had worshipped, the one they had chosen as her perfect future, began to see through the cracks. One evening, in front of them, he asked the question that made the room freeze. If you could betray her, someone you loved for years, what makes me safe? Her face drained of colour, her mother stammered excuses, her father tried to laugh it off, but it was too late. Doubt had been planted, and it grew fast. The engagement they had built their dreams around began to collapse under its own weight. Weeks. Later, at a public gala, I watched it all unfold. She entered the hall clinging tightly to his arm, dressed as if she were still the perfect daughter everyone should admire. But this time no applause rose to greet her, no admiring looks followed. Instead, the whispers spread like fire. That's the girl who threw away real love for her family's approval. She betrayed someone who truly cared. She wanted acceptance, but all she earned was pity. People turned their heads, shook them, and walked away. She stood there smiling stiffly, trapped in the costume of the woman her family wanted her to be, while the world finally saw through it. I left the hall that night with my head high, a quiet smile on my face. The air outside felt cleaner, freer, as though I had already stepped into the life waiting for me. But then I heard it. Footsteps rushing behind me, her voice cracking with desperation. Ilara, wait. Please, don't leave me behind. Stay, in my life somehow. I need you. I stopped, my hand tightening around my purse strap, the night air still against my skin. And for the first time I realised she needed me now far more than I would ever need her. In the months that followed, I rebuilt myself piece by piece, not as the girl who had once begged for space at someone else's table, but as the woman who created her own. My new city was alive with possibilities. Streets that didn't know my name, colleagues who judged me by my work and not by who sat at my side, nights where I could finally breathe without the weight of their approval, pressing down on me. Sometimes in quiet moments I'd reflect on everything that had happened. They tried to bury me under shame, but shame doesn't bury a woman like me. It waters her roots. What they thought would break me only fed me. Every humiliation had become fuel, every whisper had hardened into steel. Meanwhile, the cracks they tried to hide turned into ruins. My ex was left humiliated, the whispers about her betrayal sticking harder than any lie she told. The man her family adored slowly slipped away, unwilling to tie himself to a woman who could so easily discard someone she once called her forever. He wanted loyalty, and all she could offer him was proof of betrayal. Her parents faced their own downfall. Invitations stopped arriving. Friends they once bragged to no longer answered their calls. Their reputation, once polished and envied, became a cautionary tale whispered at the same dinners where they had once shamed me. But I thrived. My career flourished, my peace deepened, and my nights were quiet in the best way, filled with the sound of my own laughter, the warmth of people who valued me for me. I was no longer waiting to be chosen. I had chosen myself, and when memories of her words returned, I let them echo only long enough to remind me of my strength. The day she said she couldn't choose me was the day I chose myself, and this time I didn't leave room for her family, or for him.